Shocking revelation, the hidden biblical truth behind Iran and Israel's ancient conflict. Few knew what truly happened at night in the unforgiving deserts of ancient Persia. As the moon hung heavy, casting shadows that danced like spirits, a battle was brewing. The air crackled with tension. Two tribes stood on the brink, one, the descendants of Israel, clinging to promises woven through the generations, the other, fierce warriors of Persia, known for their ruthlessness and strategy. Each heart pounded, each breath held tight with fear and anticipation. In the flickering flames of a solitary campfire, voices rose, echoing off the rocky cliffs. Eleazar, a man marked by faith and determination, clutched a weathered scroll. The prophecies danced in his mind, speaking of an impending doom intertwined with his very being. This wasn't merely about land, oh, no. It was a cosmic struggle, a clash of destinies written in the stars long before his ancestors walked the earth. Farther away, whispers of betrayal echoed through the tents of Persian leaders. Each flicker of a torch illuminated haunted faces, warriors bemused by their own doubts, women clutching children, praying for protection. They all felt it. The pulse of fate coursing through the desert, a force stronger than steel. Echoes of ancient tales hinted at a divine hand guiding the crossroads of time. Then came the rain. But this was no ordinary rain. It poured in sudden torrents, as if heaven itself cried out, trembling. The chaos of the storm mirrored the turmoil among the warriors. "Why is this happening now?" they murmured, drenched in fear and confusion. The mud beneath their feet became a battleground of emotions, fear blurring into desperation, loyalty teetering against survival. What unseen force moved among them? What truths lay hidden just out of reach? As the first clash of swords rang through the air, Eleazar's heart raced. How many would fall by dawn? Would the legacy of his people be shattered or strengthened? Among the cacophony, an eerie silence lulled for just a moment, leaving only the distant howl of the wind. This was not just a fight, it was an echo of ages past. A slippery connection to a prophecy that felt both a curse and a blessing. The ground shook beneath their feet as voices cried out in anguish. The mixture of steel, blood, and desperation painted a grim portrait of the night. Tears mingled with rain. Dreams shattered. Indeed, it was a battle fought on a scale that transcended the mortal realm. Could a flicker of hope arise amid chaos? Or would the weight of despair drown out the ancient whispers of redemption? Hey, before we continue with this amazing story, I need to give you an important heads up. Many subscribers have reported that YouTube unsubscribed them without warning. Take a quick second to check the red button below to make sure you're still subscribed to the channel. I'd hate for you to miss any of the exclusive content coming soon. And while you're there, smash that like button, it really helps me out with the algorithm. Oh, and tell me in the comments, which city are you watching from? I love getting to know every amazing person who's part of this community. Your participation makes all the difference. Let's connect. As dawn's first light began to fade the darkness of the night, a strange stillness enveloped the desert. The relentless storm had given way to an unsettling quiet, allowing the cries and clangs of battle to soften into distant echoes. Eleazar stood amidst the chaos, his heart pounding, laden with uncertainty about what lay ahead. The rain had washed away some of the blood, but the ground was still soaked with the remnants of conflict, a cruel reminder of the lives lost and a testament to the journey yet to unfold. In the soft glow of morning, he turned away from the battlefield, seeking clarity amid the emotional fog. His eyes scanned the horizon where the sun peered timidly over the dunes, spilling warmth onto the heavy air. Was it a sign from the heavens? A beacon of hope among despair? The prophecies whispered of trials the people would face, but this was more than a mere test. It felt like a defining moment in their collective legacy. Around him, the remnants of the Israelite camp stirred with a mix of determination and fear. These enduring souls were bound not just by blood but by the threads of faith stitched throughout their history. Eleazar recalled stories of his forefathers, of Abraham's covenant and Moses' journeys, tales woven into the very fabric of their being. Perhaps this battle was not just a struggle for survival but a living echo of those promises, yet, he sensed a deeper current running beneath the surface of their plight. The marred earth spoke of an age-old conflict, a divine contest between light and darkness. He remembered the elders discussing the prophecies that spoke of a time when nations would rise against one another, divinely orchestrated to fulfill a greater purpose. How intricately woven was the fate of his people with that of the Persians. Could it be that within the heart of chaos lay the seeds of reconciliation? In the distance, he spotted a solitary figure kneeling, silhouetted against the horizon, a Persian warrior, no less. Eleazar felt a stirring of emotions he hadn't anticipated, confusion and curiosity intertwined with a tinge of empathy. Why did he feel drawn to this stranger when the conflict dictated that they were foes? Had the rain not soaked their fallen comrades equally? Did the echoes of the past not resonate in both tribes, guiding their steps with an unwavering certainty? Unbeknownst to him, this warrior, Arash, carried a burden just as heavy. His heart was torn, for while he yearned to honor his duty to his people, the cries of those suffering on both sides haunted him. As dawn broke, he contemplated the visions that had visited him in the quiet moments of the night, whispers of change yet to be realized. In their eyes, he saw not just enemies, but brothers and sisters caught in the throes of a powerful fate. As Eleazar approached, a shaky truce emerged from the chaos, a moment fueled by curiosity more than conviction. An unspoken question hung in the air: what if we are not so different? Each man grappling with the very fabric of their existence, yearning for answers that might elude them. The questions of legacy, destinies intertwined, and divine plans echoed louder than any sword could strike, but as the sun ascended higher, casting away the shadows of the previous night, the tensions simmered anew. Would this burgeoning understanding hold, or would the strife between their people reignite, fueled by anger and fear? What truths remained hidden, waiting to be uncovered in the murky depths of conflict? In this moment of fragile clarity, a question lingered in both their hearts: could this clash of civilizations lead them down a path toward something greater than mere survival? As the day stretched into luminous hours, Eleazar and Arash found themselves standing amidst the remnants of their clansmen, each half silenced by the turmoil of their recent encounters. With the sun casting a golden hue across the desert expanse, a moment of hesitation tethered them to this shared space, where courage met the uncertainty of their shared histories. The air was thick with unvoiced thoughts, each man aching to understand the other's heart. Eleazar studied the warrior before him, his gaze tracing the lines of weariness etched upon Arash's face. Those lines whispered stories of loss and sacrifice, tales that paralleled his own and yet diverged in ways he had never imagined. What dreams had this man held on the eve of combat? What unseen burdens had driven him to fight? Your people, Eleazar finally ventured, his voice barely breaking the morning's serenity, do you not see the futility of our strife? The question hung heavy in the air, weighed down by the echoes of the battle still reverberating in their minds. Arash's eyes glimmered with the reflection of a million unspoken pains. They stand behind me, Arash replied, searching for the right words. They believe I am their shield against you. Yet, in the stillness of the night, it is your voice that haunts my dreams. He hesitated, recognizing the strange kinship that blossomed in the quietude. Do we not owe it to our ancestors to find another way? The horizon flickered with the shimmer of distant forms, remnants of their respective camps stirring once more, oblivious to the fragile connection forming at the heart of the battlefield. Eleazar's mind drifted to the stories of his lineage, the steadfast promise made to his forefathers by the divine. How had those promises shaped these dire moments? Could this unexpected encounter bear the weight of divine providence? A thought danced on the fringes of Eleazar's mind. Perhaps there was a hidden purpose behind every thread of their respective narratives. The book spoke of a mediator who would unify and forge peace among nations, but what if the call to reconciliation began not with institutions or leaders, but with two unassuming men, bound by their humanity? As if in response to their burgeoning understanding, a gust of wind swept through the desert, entwining the forgotten whispers of the dead with the sighs of the living. Silence enveloped them like a shroud, creating a sanctuary amid the storm's aftermath. Within this sanctuary, both men sensed an opportunity, a choice hanging in the balance. We must speak to our people, Eleazar urged, a flame of resolution igniting in his chest. We must shift the narrative from enemies to a shared journey. He thought of how easy it was for hatred to flourish when stories were not shared, when eyes remained averted. But in this unfolding moment, he dared to believe that perhaps their words could kindle a flame of hope. "Together we may find a new path," Arash replied, his voice steadier now. Yet an unease clung to his heart, a faint echo of doubt that threatened to drown their flickering hope. Would their clans accept this new truth? Would they brave the ire of their kin, turning their backs on age-old traditions that demand vengeance and blood? In the distance, the calls of the gathering warriors grew louder, their mixture of intent reflecting a brewing storm, a swirling tempest of anger, loyalty, and unresolved grief. The elders would soon gather to recount the grievances of the past, and as ancient tensions threatened to erupt anew, Eleazar and Arash stood at a crossroads. Could the silent understanding forged in this quiet moment take root among those who had been consumed by the clamor of conflict? What revelations awaited them within the hearts of their people? Could they bravely emerge from the shadow of predetermined narratives and embrace the possibility of what could be, even if it seemed utterly impossible? As the sun dipped lower toward the horizon, painting the sky in hues of crimson and gold, Eleazar and Arash felt the weight of their resolve pressing against the backdrop of their imminent confrontation. The distant calls of warriors swelled like an impending storm, but the tension in the air also crackled with a new energy, one that whispered of hope and potential. Eleazar glanced at Arash, the rising dust around them swirling like time lost, caught in an endless loop of what had been and what could yet unfold. What if our forefathers have laid the pathway for us not just to repeat their mistakes, but to transcend them? He pondered aloud, feeling the gravity of his words settle into the moment. What stories are hidden in the silence of our elders, waiting for brave hearts to uncover them? Arash shifted, his brow furrowing in thought. The elders speak of glory and honor derived from blood, he said finally, but what if the greater honor lies in healing rather than in vengeance? Perhaps it is time for a new story, a legacy of different kind. His voice faltered, there was a flicker of fear beneath the surfacing conviction. But is bravery measured by our will to fight, or by our will to stand firm against the tide of hate? As the shadows of the mountains grew longer, their choice echoed louder within the recesses of Eleazar's heart. This was not just about their clans, it was a ripple in the ocean of history that threatened to drown thousands beneath its waves. Could they be the first ripples of change? The tension between duty to their people and the desire for peace was palpable. Memories flashed through Eleazar's mind, sacrifices made, dreams deferred, and hearts hardened by loss. "I recall the words of our scriptures," he said softly, almost reverently. "There is a time for every season, a time to sow and a time to reap, a time for war and a time for peace. What would it be for us if we chose the season of peace?" Arash looked toward the horizon, where dusk settled deeper every moment. "Yet, peace often seems like a dream wrapped in a shroud of reality," he responded, his voice a mixture of awe and apprehension. "If we challenge the long-standing narratives, will they not cast us aside, branding us traitors to the blood of our fathers?" Caught in this moment of reflection, Eleazar felt an urge to reach beyond the physical barriers that separated them, an instinct born from the belief that the divine sometimes spoke through the choices of humble hearts. If our people embrace this new revelation together, perhaps we shall ignite a different flame. Not the one of retribution, but one of unity. But at the edge of their conversation loomed an unsettling question that hovered like the darkening sky. How could they inspire others to embrace such a radical transformation, especially when the fires of rivalry had burned so brightly for generations? Would the flicker of their newfound hope extinguish under the weight of tradition and fear? As dusk transformed to night and the first stars began to twinkle in the vast expanse, Eleazar and Arash turned towards the sounds of gathering clansmen. They would soon confront the intensity of emotions, the tired echoes of bloodshed, and the fierce grip of loyalty to past narratives. Yet, in the deep of their hearts, a single question pulsed: could two men, emboldened by a fragile yet profound understanding, unveil the mysterious truth that lay buried beneath centuries of conflict? Or would their efforts only deepen the divide, leaving the legacy of struggle untouched for yet another generation? As the evening cloak wrapped around the valley and the calls of warriors grew nearer, the air thrummed with a sense of urgency. Eleazar and Arash stepped lightly towards their clan's gathering, shadows playing tricks on their minds, a reminder of the choices they were about to face. The flickering torches illuminated the gathering, casting long shadows that danced on the rugged terrain, a fitting backdrop for the trials of the heart. Drawing a deep breath, Eleazar framed the myriad faces before him. His fellow tribesmen wore expressions hardened by years of struggle, each adorned with the experiences of loss, bravado, and a dichotomy of loyalty and yearning. They were custodians of history, each with a story etched in the lines of their brows and the graying hair whispering tales of eras gone by. "Brothers! Sisters!" he called out, attempting to pierce through the somber air. "We gather at a crossroads, a moment where our choices will echo through the ages. What we decide tonight may lay the foundation for generations to come. Are we to remain prisoners of our past, or shall we step boldly into a new dawn of hope?" The murmurs rippled through the crowd, an amalgamation of skepticism and curiosity. Arash, feeling the pulse of the moment, joined in, his voice unwavering yet gentler than before. "Let us remember the essence of our teachings. Is not our purpose here to seek understanding, to foster love among one another? Should the cycle of animosity continue to define us?" With every word, Eleazar felt the weight of opposition hang in the air. From the back, an elder rose, his presence commanding. "You speak of peace as if it were a fairy tale. Our ancestors' blood has been spilled to carve out a legacy of survival. We cannot abandon the paths they paved for us, paths that defend our existence against those who wish to see us extinguished." His voice trembled with the fiery remnants of hatred ingrained through the ages, but Eleazar sensed that the elder's eyes, though clouded by years of grievance, flickered with a hint of doubt, a question lurking just beneath the surface. "And yet, what of the pain it has wrought within us, and the future it denies? In clinging to a bitter legacy, are we not repeating their mistakes?" He pressed, as his heart raced, knowing he tread on sacred ground. Around them, the tension felt electric, the air thick with unexpressed fears and uncharted desires. It was Arash who stepped forward then. "We have the power to rewrite our story. Each of us carries within us the ability to choose empathy over enmity. Can we not aspire to be the rebuilders of a fractured world, sowing seeds of peace where once only conflict flourished?" He looked around, searching for allies in the crowd. A sudden silence fell over the assembly, frozen in contemplation. Within that moment, Eleazar glimpsed the flickers of hope that could ignite. There were whispers of families torn apart, of children lost in the echoes of strife, and of a longing for something more, a different imagery of life. Yet, just as the glimmer of possibility lit their hearts, a voice rang out, sharp with skepticism. "But what of our enemies? They have taught us only survival through conflict. Can we truly afford to extend our hands when we still bear the scars from their swords?" Eleazar felt a tightening in his chest. He leaned forward, determined to probe deeper. What if our greatest strength lies not in the might of our swords but in the courage to confront our fears? Can we not be the voice of reconciliation, even when it seems the greatest folly to hold out the hand of peace? His gaze swept the gathering, every pair of eyes reflecting the tension of uncertainty. As the tension in the air shifted, an unexpected stillness seemed to envelop them, as if the heavens themselves were lending an ear. Here, beneath the weight of their ancestors' shadows and the flickering torchlight, the enormity of destiny presented itself like an ancient scroll yet unfurled. But then came the nagging question, pulling at the edges of their conviction: were they prepared to bear the burden of the unknown and risk it all for a chance at peace? And if they did choose this path, what consequences would await them from friends and foes alike? The depth of possibility danced behind the edges of their resolve, an enigma wrapped in shadows waiting for the dawn. As the weight of the assembly's silence pressed down on Eleazar and Arash, a whisper of wind rustled through the valley, a natural hymn echoing the turmoil in their hearts. With this whisper came a fleeting realization: they stood not as mere warriors guarding a fragile peace, but as architects of a new story, one that would reverberate through the sands of time. The elder, having felt the palpable shift, lowered his gaze, his shoulders somewhat softened in contemplation. It was a rare moment, where ancient wounds were laid bare not to be bandaged, but to be examined in the light of this new vision. Eleazar took a calculated step forward, his heart racing as he sensed uncertainty transforming into introspection. Each of us carries not just the blood of our ancestors, but the weight of their unfulfilled dreams, he began, his voice earnest and low. resonating with comforting familiarity. They thirsted for peace yet were met with strife. Today, we teeter on the edge of vengeance and forgiveness. What if the true legacy we owe them is not retaliation but reconciliation? As hope mingled with fear in the air, the fiery uncertainty of the crowd simmered. A voice, once filled with steadfast defiance, rose from the back. A woman, holding her child close, her eyes filled with light and shadows. But Eleazar, can our hearts withstand the pain of betrayal? To forgive the unforgivable is to risk everything. Can we endure knowing they may not wish the same? Eleazar's gaze connected with hers, understanding the depth of her fear. Yes, the pain is immense, and is anyone truly prepared to embrace it? Yet, amidst the cries of grief, I believe there exists a path untraveled. What if, through this pain, we could forge an understanding, a shared existence that honors both our past and our potential for a united future? As he spoke, a subtle change washed over the assembly, a flicker of recognition that perhaps the stories they told themselves were intricately woven into the struggles they faced today. He could see familiar faces light up with a spark as old grievances began to mingle with the vision of a brighter tomorrow. Then, a man known for his fierce loyalty rose among them, his brow creased with thought, wrestling with an inner storm. What guarantees do we have that this vision of togetherness will withstand the trials that come with it? How can we trust those who once sought to extinguish our flames? For a moment, the question hung heavily. What could reassure this intimate gathering of the uncertain journey they were about to embark upon? It was Arash, with a gentler resolve, who echoed through the silence. Is not the essence of faith believing in that which is unseen? Should we not be brave enough to illuminate the darkness with hope? Can we not be the torchbearers of a reconciled world, kindling light even when shadows loom? A hush fell once more, the collective breath of the crowd seeming to intertwine with a nascent understanding that ran deeper than the fear instilled by centuries. In that moment, the rugged terrain beneath their feet became a sacred ground, woven with the possibility that here lay a choice, a path shrouded in poignancy, illuminated in humanity, but the questions morphed, leaving behind the echo of uncertainty. What if they risked their home for an elusive dream? Would their courage be met with the swords they feared, or would it invoke the desire for peace they hoped to kindle? Would the allies gleam with the same light, or would they remain forever enemies trapped in a cycle of sorrow? And so, beneath the starlit blanket of the heavens so wide, so vast, so full of promise, Eleazar found himself at the crossroads of unforeseen destiny, wondering. Was it their moment to claim their legacy, or merely an invitation to deeper challenges yet to come? The dawn of possibility loomed close, shimmering with both fervor and fear, a time where shadows could either envelop them or allow them to soar. As dawn broke over the valley, the first rays of light began to filter through the trees, illuminating the faces of the assembly with an ethereal glow. Eleazar felt his heart swell with hope, yet a shadow of uncertainty lingered like the last echoes of the night. The time had come for the assembly to ponder the path ahead, a journey that held the potential for profound transformation. In the stillness, he beckoned the assembly closer, creating a circle of intimacy amid the sprawling land. Let us share our stories, he proposed, his voice reverberating with urgency. Each tale carries the essence of who we are, and in our collective memories, we may find a map leading us through grief and toward healing. One after another, members of the assembly stepped forward, their voices trembling yet resolute. A farmer spoke of his brother lost to the flames of anger, his fields scorched by the fires of war, planting seeds not just in soil, but in faith for a future not yet born. A healer shared tales of those whose bodies bore scars of hatred, yet whose hearts sought the balm of unity. Voices melded, weaving a tapestry of collective sorrow and hope, bringing forth the raw vulnerability that lay beneath their hardened exteriors. It was then that an elder of a neighboring tribe, once regarded with caution and skepticism, stood up. His hair was silver like the moonlight, his eyes holding the wisdom of the ages. "You speak of peace as if it were a gift to be unwrapped," he said, his voice steady as the mountains. "But peace is not a gift, it is our responsibility. We must create it, nurture it, and guard it fiercely against those who seek to burn it to ash." Whispers of agreement and unease rustled among the crowd. The elder continued, "For generations, we have been shaped by conflict, we know not just the sorrow of loss, but the bitterness of triumph. We have fed our souls with the darkness of vengeance, and now we must learn to feast on the warmth of compassion. As the sun climbed higher, painting the sky with hues of gold and crimson, the assembly was engulfed in a collective reckoning. It was as though they were standing on the precipice of a new destiny, fragile yet invigorating. Each voice brought deeper understanding, but with it came pivotal questions. How could they reshape histories written in blood? Could they trust those once deemed their adversaries? Eleazar, sensing the tumult of thoughts swirling among them, raised his hand. We must remember, he implored, that our ancestors carried stories laden with pain. But among their tales were glimmers of grace. They too sought connection amidst division. What if, in this moment, we chose to acknowledge our shared humanity over our enmity? A profound silence enveloped the assembly, interrupted only by the soft rustle of leaves, as though the earth itself paused to consider Eleazar's words. Somewhere in the distance, a bird called out, its song echoing the complexity of their gathering. Each member felt the weight of history on their shoulders, yet the breath of possibility filled their lungs. However, this new dawn also carried the burden of unspoken fears. Would they be able to extinguish the embers of hatred burning deep within? Could faith in one another triumph over the inevitable trials that lay ahead? As the sky shifted into a brilliant azure, a stirring realization dawned upon Eleazar. The path ahead was not devoid of challenges, but there lay strength in vulnerability. Yet still, uncertainty lingered like the morning mist, and he pondered silently. Could they truly build a bridge high enough to span the chasms of despair, or were they merely laying stones upon waters that could swallow them whole? In this moment of reflection, he understood that the journey toward reconciliation was neither linear nor assured, but it was undeniably necessary. As the light grew bright above them, one simple question remained suspended in the air: what would they choose to embrace, their legacy of division or the promise of togetherness? As the sun reached its zenith, casting a golden warmth over the gathering, the assembly fell into a contemplative hush. It was a moment suspended in time, heavy with both the weight of the past and the possibilities of what lay ahead. Eleazar felt the pulse of uncertainty quickening in his chest, a reminder that transformation often heralded both fear and hope. The elder's words lingered, like the fragrance of blooming flowers carried by a gentle breeze. To create peace, to nurture it amidst the ashes of resentment, this was not merely a lofty ideal, it was a demand placed upon their hearts. Soon, however, it became apparent that to rekindle the ember of camaraderie, they must first confront the hidden fissures born from confrontations long past. One among them, Miriam, a weaver known for her intricate tapestries, broke the stillness with a voice that trembled with passion. "What do we weave into our lives?" she implored. "Are we crafting a fabric of unity, or are we stitching together fragments of history strung with bitterness?" She unfurled a cloth she had been working on, vibrant and rich in color, depicting scenes of laughter, sorrow, and recovery intertwined. "Look closely," she beckoned the assembly. "Every thread tells a story, and every knot is a moment of struggle. Let us not hide our flawed designs but embrace them as part of our shared journey." Eleazar marveled at the threads of her creation, for within them lay a profound truth. Their stories, though stained by conflict, were also embellished with resilience and hope. In that moment, a current of understanding flowed through the assembly, a recognition that vulnerability could indeed be a strength. They were not merely bearers of their ancestors' grievances, they were the authors of new narratives waiting to be inscribed. Just as the conversation began to unfold, an unexpected voice called out from the edges of the gathering. It was Hanan, the son of a man once accused of treachery, a figure who had lived under the weight of disdain for far too long. With trepidation, he stepped forward, his presence commanding yet solemn. "What if we uncover the truths buried beneath our memories? Many have spoken of pain, yet whose truth do we embrace? Each of us has felt the sting of loss and betrayal, yet we have also sown seeds of misunderstanding. Isn't it time?" He paused, eyes sweeping over the faces before him, "to acknowledge that we are not the only ones marked by this history." His words struck a chord, reverberating through the hearts of the assembly. Hanan continued, "Our scars are not exclusive to us, they bleed into the lives of those we see as enemies. What if we venture to listen to their stories? To find the roots of their despair? Could we fathom their pain and respond not with anger but with empathy? Murmurs of contemplation surged as the assembly grappled with this invitation. What lay hidden in the narratives of those they opposed? Were they prepared to peel back layers of animosity, to unearth the shared humanity buried beneath the rubble of centuries? Eleazar felt the weight of this proposition bearing down upon him. It would require courage to confront the full scope of their shared history. What lay beyond the veil of resentment? Would they muster the strength to encounter the roots of their conflict, to delve into stories held by others, some of whom were doubtless entwined with their own fate? The sun began its descent, casting long shadows that danced among the trees, echoing the dualities of light and dark in their midst. A growing awareness washed over Eleazar. Their fight for peace was not merely a confrontation of the present but a reconciliation with the past, a reckoning with truths often avoided. As the assembly deliberated on the vision of embracing all narratives, a lingering question arose, heavy with possibility. Could unearthing the buried truths ignite a flame of understanding strong enough to light their way out of the darkness? Or were they venturing into a vast unknown that might devour them before dawn? As twilight draped its silken veil over the gathering, an unusual stillness settled among the assembly. The air thrummed with a quiet intensity, pregnant with anticipation. Eleazar, now grappling with the prospect Hanan had so boldly introduced, felt the ground beneath him shift. The thoughts of unspoken histories and fractured bonds swirled in his mind like autumn leaves caught in a tempest. Miriam, observing the changing expressions around her, took a step back to survey the assembly. What if, she began tentatively, each of our losses is a thread woven into the fabric of our collective identity? Each thwarted dream, each unrequited desire, could they together form an intricate tapestry of our shared humanity? Her gaze, filled with conviction, sought to pierce through the veil of fear that loomed over them. From the shadows of the gathering stepped Eliav, a man who had often kept his thoughts cloaked in silence. With a voice that resonated like a bell, he spoke. But does not the tapestry also record our failures? The pain we have inflicted as much as the compassion we have shown? Would we not merely wish to embrace the light while neglecting the darkness that birthed it? His words, both sharp and insightful, echoed in the hearts of those assembled, the questions entwined like vines, wrapping around each individual's conscience, challenging them to confront not only what was lost but also what was deliberately suppressed. A ripple of discomfort spread, for each knew the tales of transgressions as well as their own parts played upon the stage of history. It became apparent that the path to understanding would not only require courage, it would demand accountability. Suddenly, across the gathering, an elder from a distant clan stood, his weathered face a testament to the years spent weighing grievances. "What is it you seek to discover?" he asked, his voice rich with aged wisdom. "Is it not easier to clothe ourselves in the narratives of the past, unconsciously passing down anger like an heirloom? Perhaps the truths we have buried are also the keys to a prison of our own making." A murmur of agreement rippled through the crowd, deeper and resonant. "Yes, but how do we confront the ghosts of our past?" Hanan interjected with a longing in his eyes. "Those who have wronged us are still alive. How can we approach them with open hearts when their shadows loom so large? How do we begin the conversation?" Eleazar felt the mounting tension. Each man and woman before him now stood on a precipice, entwined in their histories, a tapestry woven not just of individual threads but of collective sorrow, camaraderie, and aspiration. "Maybe," he contemplated aloud, "the first step is to seek the stories beyond our tribe, to understand their hearts and minds. We need to remember that within every foe lies a friend waiting to be discovered." As the gathering remained ensnared in silence, a sense of urgency rushed forth with the cooling breeze. The sun dipped lower, casting hues of crimson and violet across the sky, a visual reminder of the beauty emerging from chaos. In this moment of reflection, they all felt the weight of unfinished stories waiting to be told, but even as they pondered these profound questions, Eleazar recognized a looming doubt. Would their pursuit of understanding tread too far into old wounds, reopening scars deemed better left sealed? Could the endeavor to listen lead them back to the pain they wished to escape, or would it serve as a salve, nurturing the healing they so desperately sought? As the final rays of sunlight slipped beneath the horizon, the assembly shared a collective breath, a deep inhale that drew in both trepidation and hope. What tales lay beyond the threshold of their fears? and would they find wisdom in the shadows or simply fuel the fires of their old animosities? As night fell completely, the air shifted, vibrating with a stillness that felt charged with unspoken promises. Eleazar stood with a heavy heart, eyes scanning the faces of his people, each a reflection of years lost to conflict, fear, and sorrow. The gathering had transformed into a crucible of emotions, a collective heartbeat resonating with hope yet draped in a shroud of uncertainty and age-old grievances. Barash, standing beside him, sensed the shifting tide. "We cannot change the past," he said, his voice steady yet laced with an urgency, "but we can reshape the future." The weight of those words settled like a warm blanket over their assembly. It was a challenge, an invitation to rise above their past. "Indeed, we must seek out the stories that have shaped us, both the bitter and the sweet," Eleazar echoed, feeling a kindred spirit in the moment shared between them. "Let us not forget, peace is not merely an absence of conflict, it is the convergence of our disparate paths into a single journey." As they stood together, a deep breath filled the air, mingling with the sense of the desert coolness, fragrant with wild sage and earth. The assembly stirred, poised at the cliff of a new understanding, drawn into a collective contemplation of courage. A familiar face stepped forward. It was Alicia, a woman known for her fierce spirit and uncompromising beliefs. "You speak of stories and understanding," she said, her tone sharp yet inquisitive. "Yet how shall we bridge the divide that years of hatred have carved? How do we heal wounds we did not inflict?" The question resonated deeply and lingered in the stillness, drawing forth the gravity of the moment. Eleazar felt compelled to respond, drawing upon the untapped reservoirs of faith and understanding within him. "Perhaps," he began slowly, pausing to search the eyes of his people, "the answer lies in vulnerability. If we venture to share our stories openly, exposing our scars, we invite others into the sacred space of healing. To see that our pain is not unique, but rather a shared human experience. But to share our scars is to risk more pain," another voice chimed, hesitant yet earnest. "Are we strong enough to bear it? Is forgiveness even possible in the face of such atrocities?" In that moment, the stark reality of their doubt cast another shadow. Resolutely, Barash raised his voice, weaving intensity into his words. "If we fear the pain of honesty, we will forever remain in chains of resentment. Each story shared is a step towards emancipation. Each truth, a brick laid in the foundation of understanding. This is our moment to reclaim our legacy, not through bloodshed, but through reclamation of our humanity." As a hush settled, a single tear fell down Alicia's cheek. It was a glimmer of hope intertwined with the burden of years spent fortifying herself against the world. "To heal," she whispered, voice trembling. "To forgive is to invite the unknown." "Precisely," Eleazar said, his heart racing. "What if the unknown is a sanctuary? A place where even our enemies wear the masks of brothers and sisters, whose stories mirror ours more than we dare to believe?" A gradual awakening sparked among the crowd. Symbols of hope appeared in the form of glances exchanged, hearts began to soften at the realization that they were all woven into the same fabric of loss and longing. Then a figure emerged from the shadows, an elder of the Persian camp, his gait slow yet sure. He turned an aged face towards them, eyes reflecting a poignant mix of sorrow and resilience. "Forgive my intrusion," he spoke, voice clear and profound. "Though our histories diverge, my heart beats with the echoes of pain, your pain, and mine. It is easy to harbor enmity," he continued, "but it takes courage to invite one's perceived enemy into a place of safety. I have lost many to hatred, just as you have. Yet my soul yearns for healing, for the stories unspoken to rise like the dawn." The assembly breathed in unity, sensing the moment pivot toward greatness, teetering on the cusp of transformation. "What if we opened our arms instead of our swords?" the elder asked softly, the question tumbling like pebbles into a still pond. Eleazar's heart swelled in that luminous space. "What if we united, not as enemies but as one people? Let each fracture of our past dance into the beauty of the future." As if drawn by an unseen force, men and women began to step forward, embracing one another in a gesture of profound solidarity. Old rivals, once cloaked in bitterness, tentatively extended hands, weaving together the lineage of their shared experiences. Tears flowed freely, mingling like the rain poured from the heavens just days before. The elder smiled, an expression both gentle and fierce. There exists a sacred alchemy, the ability to transform our wounds into wisdom. Together, we shall craft a new narrative, a common tale that transcends generations, binding us as allies instead of adversaries. More voices joined in chorus, murmurs of possibility threading through the air. We choose hope. We choose understanding. We choose life. The words flowed into the space, not merely spoken but shared, a palpable energy rising to intertwine them all. In that moment of vulnerability, the veil that masked their fears fell away, revealing a unity they thought impossible, and as the moon illuminated the horizon, casting a silver sheen over their gathering, the veil of ancient animosity was torn down, paving the way for an unwavering resolve. Together they exhaled the remnants of their past, embracing the unknown future, a collective vow rising like incense to the heavens. In that shared resolution lay a revelation more powerful than any sort of promise that echoed beyond time. There exists no greater strength than that which arises from a community committed to love over hate, to healing over harm. In the face of their intertwined destinies, they discovered a profound truth, that unity, born from empathy and shared experience, could forge bonds stronger than any battle they had waged before. As dawn broke once more across the heavens, illuminating the desert expanses, a sense of renewal crescendoed within both tribes. They stood, hand in hand, poised at the brink of a new age, a living testament to the belief that even in the depth of despair, the seeds of hope were eternal. And so began their journey, a tapestry rich in color and complexity, transcending generations, echoing the promise of peace through each flutter of every life intertwined.